Welcome back to this new edition of News Today. Without delay, let's explore the headlines first. Patna High Court struck down Bihar reservation laws, increasing reservation to 65%. Reserve Bank of India revises priority sector lending norms. India's DeepTech dawn forging ahead report has been released by NASSCOM. 67th Global Environment Facility Council approves funding of $736.4 million. New gene revolution driving genetically modified crops. National Human Rights Commission issues notice to Odisha government on custodial death row. In our first news, the Patna High Court has struck down Bihar's reservation laws, which aim to increase reservations for SCs, STs, and backward classes from 50% to 65%, deeming them unconstitutional. Let's delve into the reasons behind this landmark decision. The High Court found that amendments violative of Articles 14, 15, and 16 of the Constitution. According to the court, the amendments exceeded the ceiling limit of 50% for reservations set by a 9-judge constitution bench in the Indra Shawnee case of 1992. Furthermore, the court pointed out that the enhanced reservations were based on the mere proportion of the population of backward classes, which is not sanctioned by the Constitution. Additionally, the state did not conduct any analysis or in-depth study before implementing the increased reservations. Now moving on to some important judgments regarding reservation that have shaped this discourse. The Indra Shawnee case of 1992 set the 50% limit for reservations and nullified the provision of reservation in promotions, introducing the concept of the creamy layer. The M. Nagaraj case of 2006 emphasized that affirmative action should not compromise efficiency in administration. The Jarnail Singh case of 2018 clarified that reservation in promotions does not require the state to collect quantifiable data on the backwardness of SCs and STs. More recently, the Janhit Abhiyan case of 2022 upheld the validity of the 103rd Constitutional Amendment, which provides a 10% reservation for economically weaker sections. Now let's look at the constitutional provisions for reservation. Article 15's clauses 4, 5, and 6 deal with reservation in educational institutions to ensure the advancement of deprived sections. Article 16, Clause 4 and 6 address reservation in government jobs to ensure adequate representation, though not proportionate representation. Articles 330 and 332 deal with reservation in parliament and state legislature to ensure political representation. In conclusion, the Patna High Court's decision is a pivotal moment in the ongoing debate over reservation policies in India. It underscores the importance of adhering to constitutional limits and ensuring that any changes are backed by thorough analysis.
In our next news, RBI has amended the Master Directions on Priority Sector Lending, which applies to every commercial bank, including Regional Rural Bank, Small Finance Bank, Local Area Bank, and Primary Urban Cooperative Bank. New Priority Sector Lending or PSL guidelines are to address regional disparities. As per the guidelines, districts will be ranked based on per capita credit flow to the priority sector. It aims to build an incentive framework with higher weight, that is 125%, for districts with comparatively lower credit flow, and a disincentive framework with lower weight, that is 90%, for districts with comparatively higher credit flow. The effective period is from financial year 2024-25 to 26-27. Additionally, all bank loans to MSMEs shall qualify for classification under PSL. Now, let's discuss in detail about the Priority Sector Lending or PSL. PSL was formalized in 1972 to facilitate flow of credit to such sectors which, though creditworthy, are unable to access credit from formal financial institutions. In terms of its targets, banks have to mandatorily allocate a portion of their adjusted net bank credit or credit equivalent of off-balance sheet exposure, whichever is higher, towards PSL. Mandated target differs for different banks. It is 40% for scheduled commercial banks and foreign banks with 20 or more branches, while it is 75% for regional rural bank and small finance bank. Additionally, Urban Cooperative Bank have to allocate 65% to PSL in financial year 2024-25, but increasing it to 75% in financial year 2025-26. Wrapping up, the categories under PSL include agriculture, MSMEs, export credit, education, housing, social infrastructure, renewable energy, SHG, startups, etc. In conclusion, RBI's revised priority sector lending norms represent a significant step towards addressing regional disparities in credit access and promoting inclusive economic growth.
Ahead in some exciting news from the world of technology, the National Association of Software and Service Companies or NASSCOM has just released a groundbreaking report titled India's Deep Tech Dawn Forging Ahead. This report sheds light on the dynamic and evolving landscape of deep tech startups in India. Let's dive right in. First, let's explore some key findings from the report. Despite having the third largest pool of deep tech startups globally, India ranks 6th among the top 9 deep tech ecosystems worldwide. Currently, India has over 3,600 deep tech startups, showcasing the nation's innovative spirit and technological prowess. Over the past 5 years, these startups have collectively raised an impressive $10 billion. In 2023, the funding for deep tech startups witnessed a sharp 77% decline compared to 2022. These are companies leveraging advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, blockchain, and augmented reality or virtual reality to develop novel solutions for complex problems, often combining multiple technologies to redefine or create new markets. For instance, startups like Agnikul, Galaxy Eye, and Servom AI are making waves in this space. Deep tech startups are characterized by extended development timelines and high capital intensity. They are reshaping various sectors, including healthcare with AI-powered diagnostics and precision medicine, and agriculture with agribots and automation. However, the journey is not without its hurdles. One major challenge is the lack of access to necessary infrastructure during the pre-commercialization phase. Additionally, there is a limited understanding of business operations and market dynamics among many startup founders. The competition for skilled talent from large enterprises further complicates the landscape. To address these challenges, several initiatives have been launched. The Draft National Deep Tech Startup Policy 2023, programs like Technology Incubation and Development of Entrepreneurs, Startup India Seed Fund, and India AI Mission are also in place to foster innovation and growth. But what more can be done? The report suggests some steps the government can take to further support deep tech startups. Establishing co-investment programs with venture capitalists and introducing government-backed instruments could provide the necessary financial boost. Facilitating platforms that connect enterprises with deep tech startups and launching deep tech-focused skill development programs. Moreover, providing grants and access to regulatory sandboxes for prototyping and testing, along with logistical support for commercialization, could significantly ease the journey for these startups. In conclusion, the India's Deep Tech Dawn Forging Ahead report by NASSCOM highlights both the immense potential and the challenges faced by deep tech startups in India. In our next news, the 67th Global Environment Facility Council has approved a whopping $736.4 million in funding. This funding is geared towards various impactful projects, and it promises to make a substantial difference in environmental conservation and sustainability. This considerable funding has been mobilized for projects from the Global Environment Facility Trust Fund, the Least Developed Countries Fund, and the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund. These funds collectively form the Global Environment Facility or GEF family of funds, dedicated to tackling some of the world's most pressing environmental challenges. Now let's delve into some of the projects receiving this funding. One notable initiative is the Great Green Wall. This project focuses on restoring landscapes and ecosystems across the Sahel region of Africa. Another significant project under this funding is the Sustainable Cities Integrated Program. Spanning 20 countries, SCIP aims to catalyze urban system transformation. India also has two noteworthy projects included in this funding. First, there's a project focused on enhancing the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity to meet commitments of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework targets. This initiative is crucial for preserving India's rich biodiversity. The second Indian project is Cohabitat. This project aims at the conservation and sustainable management of wetlands, forests, and grasslands to secure the population of migratory species along the Central Asian Flyway in India. Both projects are implemented by UNDP, with the Indian Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change acting as the executive agency. So what exactly is the Global Environment Facility or GEF? Established in 1992 during the Rio Earth Summit, the GEF is a partnership of 18 agencies addressing the world's most challenging environmental issues. Its main governing body is the GEF Council, and it serves as the financial mechanism for 5 key conventions: the Convention on Biological Diversity, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants, and the UN Convention to Combat Desertification, and the Minamata Convention on Mercury. The World Bank acts as the GEF trustee, and it has a membership of 186 countries including India. The GEF Secretariat is located in Washington, D.C. In conclusion, the approval of $736.4 million in funding by the 67th GEF Council is a monumental step towards addressing global environmental issues.
In our next news, A new gene revolution is sweeping across the world of genetically modified crops. This new gene revolution is driven by gene editing tools like CRISPR. These advanced techniques allow scientists to make precise modifications to plant DNA without introducing foreign genes. Experts believe these new varieties of GM crops could play a crucial role in enhancing global food security. GM crop plants are those whose DNA has been altered using genetic engineering techniques. Now, let's talk about the status of GM crops in India. In India, while BT cotton is the only GM crop approved for commercial cultivation, in 2022, the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee approved the environmental release of GM mustard hybrid DMH11, though the matter is currently pending before the Supreme Court. Several more crops such as chickpea, pigeon pea, corn, sugarcane, etc. are in various stages of research and field trials. The potential benefits of GM crops are significant. They promise increased crop yields, improving food availability and farmers' income. Also, improved nutritional content helps combat malnutrition. There is also enhanced resistance to extreme weather conditions and climate-induced diseases. Some GM crops may even be optimized to capture and store more atmospheric carbon, potentially aiding in the fight against climate change. However, concerns persist. Critics worry about the possibility of target pests developing resistance, the monopolization of intellectual property by large corporations. Additionally, the environmental impact of large-scale monocultures requires great amounts of artificial fertilizers, pesticides, and irrigation. Lastly, there are also calls for more rigorous risk assessments of GM crops. In India, the regulation of GM crops are provided in the rules for manufacture, use, import, export, and storage of hazardous microorganisms, genetically engineered organisms or cells 1989 under the Environment Protection Act 1986. GEAC, functioning under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, is responsible for appraisal of proposals relating to release of GM crops. In conclusion, the new gene revolution in GM crops offers promising solutions to global food security challenges. However, careful consideration of potential risk and robust regulatory frameworks will be crucial as we navigate this rapidly evolving field. In our next news, the National Human Rights Commission has issued a notice to the Odisha government demanding an explanation for failing to pay the recommended compensation to the family of a custodial death victim. Custodial death is a manifestation of custodial violence, which primarily refers to violence including rape and torture in police and judicial custody. The statistics are alarming. Over 660 custodial deaths were reported in India between 2017 and 22. Gujarat leads with 80 such deaths, followed closely by Maharashtra, according to the National Crime Records Bureau. Our Constitution provides safeguards against such violations through Article 14, ensuring equality before the law, and Article 21, protecting the right to life. The Indian Penal Code also addresses this issue with sections 330 and 331 prescribing punishments for injuries inflicted to extract confessions during custody. Further, legal protections include Section 176 of the Criminal Procedure Code, which mandates a magisterial inquiry in cases of custodial death. The upcoming new criminal laws, particularly Sections 120 and 127 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, aims to strengthen safeguards for the accused. The National Human Rights Commission has been proactive with regard to safeguards, issuing guidelines in 1993 that require the reporting of custodial deaths or rapes within 24 hours of occurrence. The Supreme Court has also provided specific guidelines for protecting detainees and standardizing arrest procedures in the landmark D.K. Basu case. Wrapping up, take a look at the challenges in curbing custodial death. Firstly, non-ratification of UN Convention Against Torture 1997. Secondly, absence of a national-level anti-torture framework. Thirdly, lengthy judicial proceedings. And lastly, tremendous pressure on the police to detect cases whenever there is a surgical crime, and particularly heinous crime. In conclusion, the NHRC's action highlights the ongoing struggle against custodial violence in India. It underscores the critical need for rigorous implementation of existing safeguards and swift justice for victims and their families. In today's Place in News, we will discuss Armenia with its capital Yerevan. It is in the news as Armenia has officially recognized Palestine as a state. Let's talk about its political boundaries. It is a landlocked country of Transcaucasia, a populated region to the south of the Caucasus Mountains. It shares borders with Azerbaijan, Turkey, Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic, which is an enclave of Azerbaijan, Georgia and Iran. Nagorno-Karabakh is a disputed territory between Armenia and Azerbaijan. In terms of its geographical features, its topography consists of mountainous terrain with no lowlands, and its highest peak is Mount Aragats or Alaghes. Its major rivers include Aras River.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. Government held training workshop on eSakshi portal for revised fund flow procedure under MP-LADS. eSakshi portal is an end-to-end solution for efficient and transparent implementation of the MP-LADS scheme. NSO releases statistical report on value of output from agriculture and allied sectors 2011-12 to 2022-23. If we talk about the key highlights, then agriculture and allied sectors accounted for 18.2% of the gross value added at current prices in 2022-23. Share of various subsectors are crop 54.3%, livestock 30.9%, forestry 7.9%, and fishing and aquaculture 6.9%. Government announced the formation of a high-level committee to provide recommendations for improving the functioning of the National Testing Agency or NTA. NTA was established by Ministry of Education as a premier, specialist, autonomous and self-sustained testing organization. Kisan Craft Limited has joined the Low Methane Rice Project or LMRP under UP Pragati Accelerator programs to promote direct seeded rice in Uttar Pradesh. LMRP is an initiative of the World Bank's 2030 Water Resource Group. The UN chief has warned about the rise of malicious and illegal cyber activities through cyber mercenaries. Cyber mercenaries are described as person, group of persons, or private actors that are hired to carry out cyber offensive or defensive operations to take action on particular cyber networks and infrastructure. New study reveals thousands of tons of methane may have dissolved in the Baltic Sea. In 2022, the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines suddenly began leaking at 4 locations. Nord Stream comprises a network of offshore pipelines which are Nord Stream 1 and 2 supplying natural gas from Russia to northern Germany. The Global Gas Flaring Tracker report has been released by the World Bank. A report is compiled with the help of the World Bank's Global Flaring and Methane Reduction Partnership. Global gas flaring in 2023 has increased by 7% from 2022, leading to a rise of 23 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions. Qatar offered to sell 12 Mirage 2000 fighter aircrafts to India. Mirage 2000 is manufactured by Dassault Aviation, France. It is a single-engine delta-wing multi-role aircraft. It played a decisive role in 1999 Kargil War and Operation Bandar of 2019. Before we wrap up today's bulletin, it's time to put your knowledge to test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this edition of News Today. For the solutions to today's quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.